guys. So, I saw a post in the Reddit Neet forum where somebody covered a religious subject. He said pretty much that he couldn't understand how people being non-religious or atheists. And he gave a couple of reasons. He gave the idea of there being rewards in the afterlife. And I guess the idea is here that some people do, amazing things or great things, that there does seem to be a requirement of rewards in the afterlife. That's one reason. Another reason he gave was there seems to be an intrinsic value to humans. And I guess the best way to explain this would be that, well, there is a God who created us. This best explains the fact that there does seem to be an intrinsic value to us humans. We sense this within us. And I pretty much wanted to say that, yeah, the guy does have, okay, number one, as a Neet, obviously both sides are open. Like, a person can be an atheist, who says that there is no God. As a Neet, a person can be a agnostic who says, I don't know whether there is a God or not. Or, a person could be religious, Catholic, Protestant, Buddhist, whatever kind of religion, whether, philosophical or text-based religion. So yeah, there's all these options are open based on the definition, and the guy basically agrees that these things are options, genuine options, but he's just, stating his own side, and that's cool. I guess I would just encourage him to think about why he believes this. Like, he kind of described it, but didn't really give a very well thought out, response. But I sort of fleshed it out a little bit for him just then when I said that, for example, we have this intrinsic idea in ourselves that humans have value. And what's the best way of explaining that? Well, value has to be somehow grounded outside of us. It would make no sense to say, I am the ground of my own value. Value would just be subjective. It wouldn't be objective. It would have no merit. This doesn't seem to explain this sense of value, that it's grounded in ourselves. Same thing would be true of purposes. Like, there would be no ultimate purposes if God did not exist. Yeah, you would have finite, contingent purpose. You'd have your daily, I'm getting up today and I'm going to do my best. I'm going to work hard so I can earn my paycheck at the end of the week. That's a purpose, sure. It's not an ultimate purpose, right? Because on this worldview, you eventually cease to exist. And so that's the end of you, right? There was no ultimate purpose to what you did. It was just atoms and matter in frantic motion, with no ultimate purpose or end. Whereas if God did exist and he did create us, then we could imagine there being a purpose quite easily, because he would have some sort of plan for us. And given that we would, live forever, well, then all of a sudden there is some sort of an ultimate purpose to our lives. There is some sort of a meaning, because eventually, one day, you're gonna die, and you'll be held to account, for what you've done in this life, and you live on. So therefore, you have something to look forward to. You're not forced to the narrow, scientific, bleak future of the universe being the heat death of the universe, right? One day all atoms and matter and energy is gonna run out. This is a teleological fact. You know, we're all going to run out of energy one day. And matter itself will just fall apart, and all the light will be extinguished, and there'll be nothing left. There's no way we could survive forever. Yeah, that's, you know, billions of years away, but eventually it'll be the end, even if we somehow discover a way to live materially forever, you know, in this material world. At the end of the day, there would be no ultimate purpose, because everything would cease to exist. But with God, there's hope. If there is a God, if there is something eternal, you know, there's hope for the eternal. So, yeah, it definitely does make sense to me. And I sort of push back a little bit at him, and I say, yeah, but what reason do you have for this being true? I mean, personally, I do have my own reasons of why I think it's true. I've given arguments before in the forums, given the Kalam cosmological argument from the existence of the universe to a God, the moral argument, the existence of objective moral values and duties pointing towards a God, and there's a lot of arguments for God. And then from your basic idea of theism, from a general God to Christianity, you have the argument of the resurrection of Jesus, which, you know, shows that it seems to be the case that this God raised Jesus from the dead, and such a being, the ground of objective moral values and duties, would not raise liars from the dead. And so therefore, by raising Jesus, he proclaimed that, you know, everything Jesus believed and stood for and said was true. And I therefore have warrant to trust and believe in him, what he taught. And, well, what did he taught? What did he believe? Well, he taught basically the Old Testament. So he had confidence and trust in the God of the Bible, and therefore I can have confidence and trust in him. So yeah, I think it's important that Christians and even theists have reasons, that it's not just a simple relying on intuitions, you could say, for what you believe, which kind of seemed like what he was doing. He was appealing to like just a basic intuition, which is okay. People have described humans as being, you know, the religious animal or the religious ape. And that's true. The majority, statistically, you measure humanity, and the majority of humans are religious. There is a sense of, you know, we sense a divineness about existence being more than just the material world. So yeah. Also, he didn't bring up the idea of punishments, which I think is important. Part of the human existence is we have a deep sense of shame, a sense of failure, a sense of regrets, a sense of not being all we could be or what we should be, more importantly, the things that we should be doing in life, right? And the best way to that I can see about dealing with this is that there is an afterlife, a sort of court system like Afterlife, that deals with all of these wicked people and evil people. Now, who is evil, right? That's the question. Who is unjust? Who is worthy of retribution for evilness or wickedness? Now, I obviously look at the Bible for my answer because, like I said, I think the resurrection occurred, and I trust Jesus because he was raised from the dead. And the Bible talks about everyone is guilty. There is none worthy of blessedness, of eternal existence with God, in a state of blessedness, we're all worthy of hell, pretty much. And what is hell? Well, hell is a place where you receive punishment eternally, conscious torment, actually. And it's not a very nice place to be in. And it's actually not that hard to get out of it. God offers, in this court system, clemency, right? Well, what is clemency? Clemency is someone who's guilty is shown mercy by the judge. But first you have to be guilty, right? You have to admit that you're guilty. You know that you're guilty. In order to seek clemency, to throw yourself at the mercy of the court, you have to first acknowledge that you're a guilty one, right? If you never do this, you believe you're worthy of some sort of merit or something like this, of course the court's doesn't have to bestow clemency upon you at all. So yeah, the Bible talks about clemency being the only way. And well, how do we get this clemency? We receive it only through Jesus Christ. God sent his son to the world, to us, wicked individuals, sinners. What is sin? Well, sin is simply disobedience to God. You've disobeyed God. Everybody, you reflect upon yourself, the things you've done. Like, forget about what the Bible says. You, as an individual, have set up standards within yourself. Like, a person sets his own standards. We'll find that we even break our own standards, right? Try to be good according to your own standards. You bend the rules according to your own standards. Even what you think is right, you breach your own law. And the Bible just tells us that this is what wickedness is. This is what, it proves that we're fallen creatures, that we need something else to help us through our situation. And this is what God has promised us. And so, yeah, the guy just, I think it's good that he talked about rewards, but I think he has to also talk about it's important not to leave out judgment, especially when you're talking about Christianity, and he brought up Catholicism. And yeah, judgment is a big part, right, of getting your facts about reality straight. So anyway, yeah, so there's those points, intrinsic value of humans, I think, points to a God as the best explanation. The idea of, an eternal rewards, eternal punishment, seems to make, reality makes more sense with that being the case. It's not a real proof of God, right? I agree with that. Which is why I talked about other arguments for God's existence. But nonetheless, you have that intuition. People don't want to see Hitler in a heaven, let's say, if he was totally rejecting God. And people also, when you think about it, if Hitler just ceased to exist and God doesn't exist, that's unjust as well. You have people, live out their life, do evil kinds of stuff, throughout their whole life, and they just cease to exist, and there's no justice. This is a really troubling state of affairs, and I think it's not an argument for there being something more, but it at the very least pushes a person, I think, to think about and seek out arguments for whether or not there is a God. And I have done this, and I do think there's good reasons that there is a God. So yeah, I've been talking for a bit now. Of course, there was a lot of interaction on this particular post, and I'll leave it at that. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe, like this video, and find out ways to support me below. Choose your poison. There's a lot of links below and the different ways you can support me. Even comment on ways you would prefer to support. Leave some suggestions. Do you prefer me to go on Subscribestar? Maybe some other way of you would prefer to show support? Yeah, just leave your suggestions below as well. That'd be much appreciated. Alright, thanks for your time. Bye.